Hey everybody, Seth Campbell here with the new Segue Says podcast. Well, it's a new week. As a matter of fact, I'm filming this on Christmas night, so things are a little behind. Happy holidays for those celebrating. Seeing as it's a holiday special, and since I'm a little late in getting this one to you, I figured I'd do a three-song segue this week, because it's been quite a while since we've done one of those. In fact, I think I've only done two to date. There was Burn Down the Mission, Jacob's Ladder, Frogman, and Old Brown Shoe, Still Rock and Roll, Bad Bad Leroy Brown. I think those are the only two I've done. So today is three songs from very different eras. The first is a very old traditional blues song called Nobody's Fault But Mine, also known as It's Nobody's Fault But Mine. It was originally by Blind Willie Johnson, or first recorded by Blind Willie Johnson. The second is How Many Times by Toto from the Kingdom of Desire record. I know what you're thinking, another Toto song. What is he doing? I'll explain that shortly. And then finally, Come Together, the iconic first track of Abbey Road by the Beatles. One of my absolute favorite Beatles songs that I've been singing ever since my vocal recital in 2004. So, these are all fairly easy songs to do. They're all in D. Some variation of major or minor, but they're all very sort of blues structured. So the major or minor itself is more incidental to the fact that it's in D. Now, I'm going to go through these song by song just to set the tone for each, so you know what we're working with. Nobody's Fault But Mine, like I said, is an old traditional blues song, first recorded by Blind Willie Johnson. It's been covered by just about everybody under the sun. The Grateful Dead done a very notable live version of it. David Bromberg has done it twice, two different versions. His most recent version on his new album, Only Slightly Mad, is probably my favorite version of all that I've heard. The Led Zeppelin song, Nobody's Fault But Mine, is loosely based off of the same lyrics, and then they expanded it from there. And it's not quite your usual 1-4-5 blues, but it's still a very simple repetitive structure. Goes something like this. This is a verse. Nobody's fault but mine. Nobody's fault but mine. Well, if I die and my soul be lost, nobody's fault but mine. And that's the basic structure. I mean, of course, you can build it any number of different ways with each verse. My mother told me to pray. My mother told me to pray. She said if I don't pray and my soul be lost, nobody's fault but mine. And like I said, you can choose to do riffs that lend it to a major key, like I was doing there, or you can keep it in minor with the seventh. It's a very loose structure. It's a blues, so you can do it however you want. Because like I said, major and minor tend to be a little less important if it's blues based. So that gives you a picture of that song. Pretty simple. How Many Times was off the Toto record Kingdom of Desire, which was the last record to feature the original drummer Jeff Porcaro. And it was the one where it was the first where Steve Lukather, the guitarist, was the only lead vocalist. It was after the Jean-Michel Byron experiment failed. So they were kind of trying to take it in a new direction, a harder rock with a slight blues twist. Now, I know I've done lots of Toto songs before, and I can promise you there are quite a few more waiting in the wings. I guess there's two reasons for that. One is their songs are particularly susceptible, I guess you could say, to segues, because a lot of times their structures are very accessible, common bass structures that you can then move into other things, which is what they did. And second of all, remember, this is the band that knows me as Segue. So, from the story, which if you haven't heard, you can hear in the River of Dreams Rosanna Segue video. And I mean, just look at their live records. They got multiple segues between their own songs in there, so it's only a matter of time before someone can extrapolate on that, which is what I've done here. Now, How Many Times is, it's based around a guitar riff, but once the vocals come in, it's always reminded me a lot of the Beatles, and it took me a while to pin down exactly why, but a couple of the chord harmonies, particularly when you get to the pre-chorus. The pre-chorus is very Beatles, the chorus a little less so. But I'm going to give you once through the structure so you can hear it. And this is a song that kind of alternates between D major and D minor. How many years have I been away, and it feels that your life has no meaning. Never stood a chance. How many ways is our love torn apart, and you look to your heart for some answers of the happy way. Not doing the lyrics exactly right. Hope you'll forgive me. Here's the pre-chorus. I can't blame myself anymore. I've been beat and accused before. Took some bad advice, paid a high price. If I could sell my soul, you know I wouldn't think twice. How many times must a man fall down? How many dreams have to fall to the ground? It goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, yeah. I use a bit of the melody from the last chorus there. I'm not sure why I did that. But that gives you a picture of that song. And it's mainly, I mean, these harmonies I was playing in the right hand are done by voices. These two chords here are very Beatlesy. The 1 minor over the 3. So, it's the flat 3 in the scale, I guess. It's very Beatles, but it's particularly this sort of grinding, because the guitars are going chum, chum, chum. There's a lot of Beatles tracks that do this. That type of feeling. So this one always reminded me of the Beatles, and I knew I wanted to tie that in somehow. And when I realized that this sustained melody on F here, that's in the pre-chorus, is very like the Come Together melody. So, you know, if I could sell my soul, you know I wouldn't think twice. And it occurred to me that's pretty similar to got to be a joker, he just do what he please, yeah. Come Together. So, I'm kind of surprised it took me as long as it did to piece these together. So, Come Together, I mean, you've got to know it, right? It's the one, you know, I had the tea towels covering all the drums. Special thanks to my professor, Daniel Cantor, for educating us on this point. But, you know, the really cool drum part. Yeah, I have to change it up a little bit when it's just solo piano. Because it's a very rhythmic song, but once the verse kicks in, it doesn't really matter. Here come on, fat top, he come grooving up slowly. He got choo-choo eyeball, he want holy roller. He got hair down to his knees. Got to be a joker, he just do what he please, yeah. And of course, by the second verse rolls around, it's one thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me. And now this is actually a funny story about the song. Is originally it was a commissioned campaign song for Timothy Leary, who was a up-and-coming politician who was also, of course, one of the guys behind the big LSD movement in California in the 60s, you know, with Ken Kesey and the Grateful Dead and everyone in sort of the acid scene. So, of course, he got busted for that. And so by the time the song was ready for him, his campaign was no longer of any concern, shall we say. And there's a great story about him being in prison and hearing the final result and all these nonsensical lyrics describing this really bizarre, freakish person. And he apparently wrote a letter to John saying, "What the hell did you do to my song?" And John said, "Well, you know, it was like a suit, you know, we wrote it for you, but it didn't fit, so we had to tailor it to someone else." My terrible attempt at a Liverpool accent, my bad. I blame Billy Joel. I was trying to use his impersonation of John Lennon for that. Didn't quite work, I guess. So, now you have the 3 songs, and here's how we're going to string them together. They're all the same tempo. They're all in D. And again, major, minor is kind of subjective. How many times is more in minor, although the verses are in major? Come Together is pretty clearly minor, and Nobody's Fault But Mine is ambiguous. So, this one requires very little ingenuity to work. Basically, you just have to line the 3 songs up. So, what that would be like is Nobody's Fault But Mine. You know, you can go on to the end of time. A lot of versions fade out, but you can just do Nobody's Fault But Mine is the way to end it. How Many Times starts right off with this riff. So, what you can very easily do is, well, nobody's fault but mine. If I die and my soul be lost, nobody's fault but mine. So that's the ending. You just go, nobody's fault but mine. How many years keep on slipping away, and it feels like your life has no meaning, it never stood a chance. So that's how you get into How Many Times. Now, you take the last chorus of How Many Times, because every time the chorus finishes, it rolls through just back to that riff. It goes on and on and on and on and on, yeah. So it just goes back around to that. Now, rather than doing that, you just immediately start the riff of Come Together. My way of making it a little more jazzy, a little edgier. You can throw some crazy voicings in there, but that's another story for another day. So essentially what you do is just this. How many times must a man fall down? Oh, 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 oh. How many dreams have to fall to the ground? It goes on and 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 on, yeah. Here come old flat top, he come grooving up slowly. He got choo-choo eyeball, he want holy roller. He got hair down to his knees. Got to be a joker, he just do what he please, yeah. And you're fully into Come Together now. So, there's how you string all 3 together. Now, if you want to put the little sort of flourish at the very end, as those of you who know me well know, I can never resist. You can tack on just a little bit of Nobody's Fault But Mine to finish off. Because Come Together ends kind of ambiguously. It's got this long jam. Come together. Come together, yeah. come together. Hey! If I die and my soul be lost, it's nobody's fault but mine. Told you I couldn't resist. So that is how you do a little turnaround ending just to keep people interested. So thanks so much for watching. Happy holidays, everyone. Hope you're having a great time, great break if you've got some vacation, some time off. So hope all's well, and I will see you next week.